Welcome to Rooted and Rising, a soulful podcast hosted by Dr. Cheri and Elise Boone. Join the conversation as Dr. Cheri and Elise explore the transformative power of holistic healing from the inside out. Together, they guide listeners through the deep work of reconnecting with their roots, uncovering the unconscious wounds that shape us, and rising into the fullness of our higher selves. So please, welcome the hosts of Rooted and Rising, Dr. Cheri and Elise Boone.
Hello. As this year comes to a close, what part of you grew the most? And what part of you is still becoming? Let that question settle in your heart without rushing for an answer, just noticing softly. Welcome. Welcome to the integrative episode of Rooted and Rising. I'm Dr. Cheri, and I send my blessings from my co-host, Elise Boone, who is away today. Today is a sacred moment for us. Across the 10 episodes we've held space for your healing, your transformation, your remembering, and your rising. We take all that wisdom today and all that growth and that brilliance uncovered and weave it into one integrative, embodied narrative of who you are and who are you becoming. Your spiritual, your emotional, your psychological deep breath before stepping into the new year. I thought it'd be a great way to recap the year and to see where we've become. So much of integration is about embodying everything that we have gained and learned from. Healing doesn't happen with information only. Today's society, we are information mongers. We love to get information. We can get a lifetime information on one day of iPhone if we really wanted to. And so that is not our problem. Our problem today is how to apply this information into our lives for our betterment, for our growth, and our health and well-being. This happens in integration. When our mind understands, when our body softens, and when our spirit says, yes, yes, this is who I am now. So today, I hope we can walk through this full arc of our Rooted and Rising episodes and journey, helping you with every part within to settle into a deeper knowing and gaining that wisdom that only can come from within. Episode 1, we talked about rooting into safety and the nervous system stabilization. We began with the most fundamental truth, and that is you cannot rise unless you're rooted. So we explored our nervous system, and this is something that we most notice probably in our body anyway, with anxiety and stress, and even if from depression, because we're lethargic and our nervous system may not be even activated. And so we can interpret this as something broken when really it's not broken. Our nervous system is something brilliant, adaptive, and protective. And so what we talked about and what you learned was some grounding techniques into getting in the body. We learned breath anchoring, how to orinate the body, and also resourcing the body. And so this all leads us into how to safely create from the inside out and returning to where we belong within our body. You know, a grounding exercise was maybe staying on the earth outside with our bare feet and feel Mother Nature and feel the energy. The deep breath work through all the meditative exercises that Elise led us through. You know, anchoring, is from rooted in the ground with our feet, just feeling the muscles in our body going from our calves to our thighs, into our belly and to our chest and our shoulders and up, feeling the the essence of even our thinking from within, and the light from above, and then feeling this orientation and then resourcing it. If there's an agitation in the heart area, then we can put our hand on our heart and take some deep breaths and calm that down and listen. What's it saying to me? And this leads us into episode 2. In episode 2, we talk about reclaiming our voice. And, how do we do that? And we talked about discovering the voice beneath all the noise. And this is where the information mongering can be noise. We talked about getting off our devices, having distractions, sometimes even talking too much can be noise that takes us away from that inner voice. That may be today, it may be a fear voice. It may be a full-blown trauma voice. It may be that parental voice. It may be a societal, voice. And it may be that intuitive voice. And learning that we have all these voices, we can begin to heal. Just that knowing that we have all these voices is an avenue towards healing. And we can get familiar with the narrative that we're carrying around. And as we explore our voice, this is a great place that we talked about engaging in journaling. As we just put pen to paper, as Elise talked about, and just write whatever comes up, we are engaging our voice and we are learning how we talk, which voice is coming out. That may change every day. And this information is imperative to know where the work begins from the inside out. And then we can begin to take charge of where we want to change our life. Many of us will walk into a therapy room and expect the therapist to feed us with a voice, tell us where our fears reside, tell us where our intuition is, tell us where the healing needs to happen. And that can happen and feel really good in the room. And then inevitably, when we walk out of the room, within minutes, that can dissipate because it didn't come from inside us. We forgot to include our space. And so that is where we enter the next phase and maybe next phase. And that is, we remember the body. The body, we talked about the body keeping the score. The body remembers and the body heals. And so as we honor how the body archives these things, it first comes out through the voice, tapping into that body, that nervous system, the voice, and now combining them, we can pick up on contradictions. We can pick up on the body's intelligence, the survival adaptations or lack of. And we can also know where we want to place our desires through completion or release. And as we recognize this, we recognize the emotions, how they play into this, because emotions are like waves. They can flow through us. They come and they can go. And if there's an emotion that's stuck in our body, that's probably trauma. And then and as we recognize that, we're not running anymore from it, and because the body can't lie. It doesn't lie. If we ignore an emotion, we ignore a story, a narrative that isn't over yet, a trauma, the body will express that in dis-ease. And that's the anxiety, the depression, the complex PTSD even. It can also be physical ailments that will need medical attention if we ignore it long enough. And so and some of us need to wait till that dis-ease becomes physical for us to wake up and hear it. And then it's never too late to do the work. So it's fascinating how a trauma that's only an event then can get stuck because we didn't process through it and forgot to remember we're part of that story. And so now, getting these steps together, we talked about how we can now get unstuck. And that is a great thing. And we do that within ourselves, but with our community. That can be our loved one. That can be our family. That can be our community, society. That can be our therapist. It can be our medical doctor. It can be through our prayers. So we don't have to do this alone. And so then it goes into, okay, if we invite other people to assist us discovering that inner healing, intelligent being, we address what we talked about in episode 4. That is attachment, trust, trusting in who? Ourselves. And then reparenting. And so in episode 4, we invited you to look at your blueprint and create a blueprint. The underlying element of this blueprint is loving yourself. We talked about the power of love. If we broke everything down, it would be the issue of love. Love heals all. Maybe love is the reason we're here on this earth. All my own momentary near-death experience was all about coming back for love. You read all these near-death experience books, and people talk about they came back to love. And so, but we have to include ourselves. And so I'm horrible to name it, but one year, I can't remember the name of the book, maybe it'll come to me. But a woman had a near-death experience, and she was told she could come back, but to come back, she'd have to love herself. She'd have to learn how to do that. And so she made a decision, I call it on the other side of the veil, to love herself, and made that commitment to herself. We don't have to go on the other side of the veil to do that. What we have to do is just make time to do that. And how we're attached to others, a lot of times mirrors how we're attached to ourselves. If there's an anxious attachment, is there avoidant behavior? If there's a secure attachment, that's pretty much what we give ourselves. So think about it. How well do we protect ourselves? There's a difference between being a high-risk individual who likes high activities. They can do that very responsibly and still protect themselves, or they can do that recklessly, and it's not protecting ourselves. We can, it's not. Is it protective to lock ourselves behind 3 bolts of locks on the door to feel safe? Are we really safe? We're kind of trapped in that room with ourselves, and until we learn how to protect from within, we're don't know how to feel that safety. It's very common to long for connection, and a lot of times when we're just longing for it, it's because we haven't figured out how to do it. And so part of this blueprint is acknowledging, if you want connection, that it's there, and where you're on that continuum of longing for it and having it, and what are those blocks? Whether it's I don't know how to protect myself, I don't know how to attach, and also the next one is, how do I carry fear? Fear, I think, is the opposite of love. And so a lot of times when we are in a fearful moment, we're not loving in that moment. And there are things that really can scare us and are righteously to be, it's a right to be fearful. We're human beings and we're going to be fearful. And we need to acknowledge that and take action to create safety. As we create that safety, we can then embrace that love more fully. And so wanting that safety is that love language in the moment. So, what we've done and our coping mechanisms, if we have an anxious attachment, if we have a lot of fear, we don't know how to connect, we feel like we're embracing isolation versus community, you weren't wrong. That's what we need to recognize. All that shaped who you are today. And that's beautiful. All that are teaching lessons for you to even listen to this podcast. There is a desire to grow. And so you learned, that, even being here, that you can trust to rebuild. And you want to do that rebuilding one step at a time, in the moment, one step at a time, as present as you can be, one step at a time, compassionately, and then beautifully. This is where the joy comes in. So we'll talk about how we kind of built up on this in the next episodes. We're going to take a moment for our sponsors right now. And so stay with us. And if you like this episode, push like. If you want to refer to others, please do. Rooted and Rising. We want to spread the word of love, and we want to build community here. In the meantime, I'll see you in a minute. We'll wait for our sponsors. Thank you.
Mike Zoric, a 3-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a 6-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2 thirds, and 2 fourths. He also won the Veterans Folk Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorick, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorick has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of The Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on The Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Hi, welcome back. Dr. Cheri here with Rooted and Rising. In the first part of our episode, we just got through talking about the first 4 episodes of our Rooted and Rising. And that was, how we can grow to be our highest self. And we talked about first we have to root into safety and stabilizing our nervous system, and then reclaiming, our inner voice and tapping into that inner healer, recognizing the healing comes from the inside out, not the other way around, which a lot of times we mistake. And as we do that, we connect with our body and tap into what the body remembers and recognize the body does heal. And not just our body, our mind, body, and spirit. And then we talked about how expanding that through our attachments and trust and reparenting. And this how we can do that with ourselves so we can embrace the community. And as we do that, we become ready to do the shadow work. So in episode 5, we talked about the shadow work and the emotional honesty in being integrous with ourselves. That being impeccable with our word, tapping that inner voice, we really tap into our authenticity. And sometimes we go into the shadow work. We may first not like it and like who we are, but we can't have the light without the shadow. And the shadow is our teacher, and then the light is our sustainer. And so, but we're taught a lot in our world that some of the feelings that go along maybe with the shadow work is like unbecoming, and that we shouldn't have them, such as anger, or longing, or fear. We can't, that we have to be brave all the time, and that we can't express unmet needs and have unmet needs. That we can't even have darkness. And darkness again, I feel like is where the creative forces really begin, and we really don't want to live without it. And so this is our buried brilliance. I like to reframe it that way. And so when we can be honest with ourselves and tap into that buried brilliance and acknowledge that all feelings are good, it's what we do with them that is, makes or breaks us, then we don't have to have shame. And I think I talked about how shame is a made up emotion. I feel, I don't know if it's emotion. It's a made up concept, and it's blame projected from others onto us. And therefore we're taking on energy, we're taking on beliefs, we're taking on concepts that are not who we are. And then we transmute them into becoming that. And then we are completely lost. And this is why it's so vitally important that we take that time to reflect and get to know ourselves. And so That's what we began to talk about in episode 6, where we talked about identity renewal. Who are you now? And so this is exploring the self beyond survival. This is where you, the self of who you are, you choose. One of the greatest gifts we have is the power of choice. And that's why I think it's so important for us to voice our choice and start, but we need to know our choices are, and then take the action for the choice. And as we do that, the self can rise above the ashes, the debris that we've been buried under. And that's an important step. And as we rise, we can rewrite our narrative. And as we get to know our voice, do our journaling, we are writing, and we can rewrite our narrative and not carry those old narratives away, and just let the old versions fall away and make room for a new one. And this is where the dying and rebirthing process really happens. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't recognize that life is about being born and dying, and reborn, being born and dying, and being born and dying. Every breath we take, we inhale a new breath and we exhale the old. That is what life is. And if we can embrace that and be present with that, the in between, like a lot of times in the meditation exercises, Elise will say, breathe in and then hold for a couple of seconds. That in between place of holding our breath before we exhale a little longer, a little more debris that we let in. But that holding space is magic. That is where we can reflect. That is where we can tap into who we really are. That is where magic happens. That's where miracles happen. And so when we are going through our day and we are choosing to shed the old, take a breath, compose our blueprint, and then release what doesn't serve us anymore, there's a grieving that happens, a lot of emotions. This is where the double dip emotions happen. We can feel happy and sad at the same time. We can feel that despair of letting go, and that trepidation of letting go, and then the excitement of accepting something unknown and new. And the power of choice is so exhilarating. And so we do that all the time with unconsciously, and we don't get to celebrate. And so the missing element is joy. And men they might have joy. I truly believe that. And this is where I believe the joy can happen in everyday life. And so we talked about how making room for that and merging into that. And then episode 7, we put purpose and meaning from doing to this becoming. And so we discovered that purpose isn't chased. When we put effort in something, we're really, they call it walking through the third dimensional world. We're walking through the muck, the resistance, the density. It's like walking through quicksand. We can make it happen, but running through quicksand is hard work and it takes so much longer. If we can just let that purpose reveal through our choices and explore from deep within, that is tapping in that inner healing intelligence. We can tap into our soul resonance, that feeling that this is right for me. Who knows best? You do. We can then align our actions to this is right for me. We can embrace the fulfillment of that versus performing for the outside in world. And that usually comes from fear-based and trying to be better and running through that quicksand. And then we can allow the meaning to come to us, inspired, to unfold, and recognize, I've come home to truth. And so this is you making yourself matter as you exist. This is you stepping in to embodying your life, like walking a room and recognizing I deserve to take space and breathe the oxygen in this room. And I don't have to breathe more oxygen than I need and take from others for fear of lack. I can just be. And we know these concepts, but when we start walking them, I guarantee you, if you start paying attention, you might recognize those parts coming out, though we talked about in IFS, the saboteur. You may recognize the prostitute that comes out and wants to take more than that is needed. These are all fear-based, and the victim. And the way we conquer some of these archetypes, that we all have those 3 archetypes, by the way, we can let them rest and let them catch up with us and recognize we don't need those kind of coping mechanisms to have joy. And so episode 8, we talked about how joy as a medicine. This was a moment that, our healing can become joyous. And we define joy as when you feel joy, your brain shifts into a state where you think more clearly, crystal clear, actually, can solve problems more easily, and the possibilities expand instead of the obstacles. It's like they say that once the mind expands, it cannot contract. And this is the experience that joy gives us. And so your body literally opens up. It's like you've given it permission. The embodiment is recognized. The nervous system is nourished, and it can come across as now, instead of a stomach ache, you may have little butterflies in your stomach, and they're pleasant. You may have chills. You may have a little goosebumps that says, something's coming, inspiration's coming. The body starts talking with these sensations in a pleasant and a beautiful way, and a confirming way. And then as our spiritual expansion just continues to grow. And so you are in the presence of aliveness, and this aliveness versus pain now is joy. And so this is where we discover that we can shift our places and we can find joy. And when we find moments when we kind of lost this place, we can get there. We talked about it through breath work. Also, I don't know if I talked about this in an episode or not, but another way is now you can put your hand on your belly and you can just do as a toddler does. We toddlers will fall on the ground just out of the blue and start laughing, and they'll roll all over and nothing happened except their imagination. And we talked about how our creative imagination is one of our greatest forces. And then they will pretend that something's funny, and it will be funny. It will come to reality. And so I encourage, especially adults, we get so stuck in our I call it stinking thinking, our rigidity. That's when fear comes up. That's when unresolved trauma comes up, that we can then just stop, put our hands on our belly, and just begin to laugh. And I could go on really loud and boisterous and roll on the ground myself, and your body state changes. We are built to have joy. So when we stop resisting it and stepping into it, it just happens. So try it. And then in episode 9, we talked about, again, entering that community part, boundaries, relationships, sacred connections, really where the architecture of love happens, that inner structure that makes love safe, strong, and lasting. And that is where we begin to love ourselves. And we need to be, with all these elements we've talked about in the last 8 episodes, the previous 8 episodes, they become a structure, a foundation. The house is built. And now you can enter the house and make it a home. And the love makes it a home. And what's thriving there is your authenticity. You learn to breathe and take up oxygen. You learn to die and be reborn. Take in what's good for you and let go what that doesn't. You're no longer shrinking to be loved. In fact, you're expanding to be known. And one of the greatest pains that people tell me is that they feel unknown, and that is from the traumas. So, and then the 10th episode, we let's go for that when we get after this commercial, and we'll dive into that and how that all this applies to take action today. So we'll see you in a moment.
Master of words, powerful player. What life-changing words can Dr. Janet Smith Warfield pull out of her magical toolbox that just might mysteriously open a door you never knew was there? A door to free yourself from fear forever. Transform your rage into right action. Release your guilt. Position you into a life of freedom, purpose, passion, power, and peace, all quite suddenly, unexpectedly, and almost miraculously, with no effort on your part. Join Dr. Janet on Dancing with Words, Dancing with Wisdom, as she and her guests show you how words map our experiences, immersing you in a sound bath that relaxes your muscles, opens your mind, and supports you in co-creating your extraordinary life. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals.
Welcome back to Rooted and Rising. As we reflect on this year and this last segment, we talked about, doing our shadow work and then, entering in, who am I now and who am I becoming, and going from doing to being, and what that looks like, our purpose and our meaning. And as we do that, embracing joy as a medicine and expanding that into creating a home within where we're authentically who we are and loving as a natural course of action. So the last episode was purposeful contemplation, where it was encouraged to really rise to your highest self. This is probably the hardest work of all, and it's continued on. We'll keep talking about in the new year how this to expand on this, because it's so key and beautiful and wonderful. And so in this, we recognize we're not striving to be perfect. In fact, we're striving to embrace perfection within our imperfections of integration. This is what being human is all about. It's not what you're used to be. It's about what you are being remembered, and the I am within. And this episode, is about your wings of flying away. So this is great. So as we enter that, I want you to think about how you can embrace all these things. And so, as you saw my husband in the background walking in. So he just says a quick hello. And as we now think about entering the next segment, I want you to put this to work. If you encourage you, maybe you will want to visit this episode, to journal about each of the episodes and how it applies to you. And so I want you to take a little moment, and I'm going to encourage a journal exercise for you to reflect on, as well as reflect on as we go into the next segment, as I do a little hypnotherapy exercise with you. A little deeper contemplation than the meditative exercises we've given. As you go through it today with me, you may choose to keep it light, and that's good. And because this can be repeated over and over again. So take a couple moments, turn inward, and maybe take a nice deep breath. And pause. And let your heart speak. And ask yourself, from your heart, kind of get out of your head, and from your heart, what part of me grew the most this year? What part of me is still waiting to become? What part of my old beliefs or patterns am I ready to release before the new year? What gifts, wisdom, and strengths am I carrying forward? Take a moment. Maybe in the future, I'd like you to allow yourself to have some quiet space. Place your hand on your heart. Take 5 deep breaths. Inhale, love, and exhale what doesn't serve you anymore. Tension, stress. Visualize the year behind you as you gently flow like a river and letting what doesn't serve you go. Imagine now the new year ahead as a golden path, illuminated with opportunities for growth, joy, and alignment. End with the affirmation: I release, I receive, I rise. Take a moment to fully feel this truth. I release, I receive, I rise. This is a simple exercise, and you can even title your journal entry as I release, I receive, I rise. And then when we return, get yourself comfortable. We're going to do a little hypnotherapy exercise, and I want you to be comfortable and be prepared to relax and enjoy. And so after this break, we will dive right into there. See you soon.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of The Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on The Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Master of words, powerful player. What life-changing words can Dr. Janet Smith Warfield pull out of her magical toolbox that just might mysteriously open a door you never knew was there? A door to free yourself from fear forever. Transform your rage into right action. Release your guilt. Position you into a life of freedom, purpose, passion, power, and peace. All quite suddenly, unexpectedly, and almost miraculously, with no effort on your part. Join Dr. Janet on Dancing with Words, Dancing with Wisdom, as she and her guests show you how words map our experiences, immersing you in a sound bath that relaxes your muscles, opens your mind, and supports you in co-creating your extraordinary life.
Hi, welcome back to Rooted and Rising. And as we talked today about the last 10 episodes and did a little bit of a journal exercise for you to prepare for this, I told you now we like to tap into a little hypnotherapy meditative practice, however you want to take this. And this is about becoming who you are. So take a moment and get comfortable if you haven't yet. And go ahead, take a nice deep breath. And hold for that precious segment of capturing who you are. And then exhaling slowly and settle in. and we'll begin. So go ahead and relax. Make sure your legs are uncrossed, your arms are uncrossed. If you get that moment, you can gently close your eyes or close them as we continue. It just helps, takes the other sensory stuff, distractions away. And take another nice deep breath now. And allow your breath to gently release softly. And allow your breath to continue to breathe your normal, natural breath. And you'll recognize it will continue to slow down. And allow your thinking to shift to sensing. As you breathe in and out, you may feel your body sinking if you're into the chair or onto the floor or wherever you're laying or sitting. Keying into your breath. And now imagine or visualize a beautiful, warm, golden light above your head. Soft, safe, comforting you, healing, brilliantly, bright light. A powerful light. As this light holds your truth, your wisdom, your future self, your healed self, as it pours over you. Feel it soften your face, your jaw, your throat. Your shoulders are dropping. Feel this beautiful light enter your spinal cord with brilliant brightness, including your brain. It softens your chest, filling your heart and your lungs. As it goes down into your abdomen, filling all your organs with brilliant, bright light. Into your hips, down both legs, into the soles of your feet, down your arms, into the palms of your hands. You may even feel a little tingling in your fingers as you now can imagine or sense this relaxation deepening down, more and more. Now you imagine you're walking through a quiet forest pathway. The air is fresh. The ground is stable beneath your feet. This path represents the coming year. Take in the scenery, the aromas, the sounds. This is your creation. You may choose to take another nice deep breath here. You may choose to take a moment and stop and take circle, a 360-degree circle to see all your surroundings. Reflecting on the stability of rooted in, and then looking up and see where rising to. Still feel that light, and recognizing as you look up, the light is surrounding you as well, like a halo or cocoon. Only positive, loving energy can come to this light as it resides with you. It's your light. It's your creation. Now with each step, you're making a choice, choosing to release something heavy. Step, letting go of fear. Step, letting go of self-doubt. Step, letting go of old identities. With each step, letting go of more that no longer serves you. Soon, up ahead, you may see someone standing in the light. It's your future self. Whole, clear, centered, radiant. And they smile at you with recognition because you are becoming them. One, recognizing the decisions already been made, the paths already carved. You may feel an inkling of joy, the flow of love running through you. They reach out. They place a hand on your heart and whisper a message only for you. Listen for the answer. Trust what you heard and let that golden light fill your entire being down to the cells of your body. Experience it from the crown to the toes and all around. You are aligned. You are emerging. You are becoming. You are aligned. You are emerging. You are becoming. You remember. Now take a nice deep breath. And as I count from 1 to 5, you'll gently return. 1, feeling a surge of energy running through you. 2, you're quite comfortable. Very pleased with what this small experience has given you. 3, you're ready to come back, recognizing this will continue working within you, with or without your conscious attention this day forward. 4, feeling alert. And 5, go ahead, open your eyes wide awake. Welcome back. I hope you go back and listen to this and just allow yourself this gift and journal more about this and gift yourself the joy and the love that comes within. I'd like to seal this year now one more time. Just place your hand on your heart and one on your belly and repeat softly, I release what no longer serves me, and I receive what my soul is ready for. And lastly, allow yourself to rise in becoming, and recognize you're already on the course. And you may now envision a door closing behind you. As this door opened and closed behind me, symbolizing the year you're becoming, you have completed this year. Another door will be opening in front of you. The possibilities, the expansion, and the grace. I encourage you to step through it and recognize you're carried, and that you will join Lisa and I in this new year. You're not alone. We're here to support you, guide you. You are held. And we want to do this together as we honor you. Your courage, your softness, and your becoming. Healing is not a straight line. We've talked about that. There's the rocky roads. That's what life's about. We're refined through our trials and our struggles. But we can always remember and get back to who we truly are. And you are remembered this year, and you have a lot to be remembered next year. And so thanks for joining me today, doing this solo. It's been great for me becoming in this solo journey. I want to thank you for walking this whole year with Rooted and Rising. It's a journey with Elise and I. We have a brand new season coming up this year, richer, deeper, and more expansive. So until then, as you are becoming, stay rooted and keep on rising.
This has been Rooted and Rising with hosts Dr. Cheri and Elise Boone. Through honest conversation, clinical insight, and creative reflection, Dr. Cheri and Elise will empower you to reclaim your voice, your vitality, and your vision. This podcast is not about quick fixes. It's a return to deep knowing, gentle unraveling, and and lifelong integration. Tune in each week, Wednesdays, 12 noon Eastern,